Hey everyone, today we just got two really amazing Dynasty card reveals from Flake over at 983 Media, so I wanted to give them a big shout out. We're going to quickly review what cards are spoiled, and then we're actually going to talk about some hands and some new combos that are now opened up in Dash as a result of these two new cards. They're actually pretty impactful, and I think they're actually opening up a lot of design space for a more aggressive Dash. So let's quickly jump into it today. So going right into it, we have our two new cards. So the first one is a Hanabi Blaster, which is a two-handed mechanologist gun. Once per turn, you can remove 2 steam counters and attack with it. It attacks for 5 with overpower. The new keyword that essentially is a little bit like dominate. It can't be defended by more than 1 action card. And then it also says the third time you play a card with boost each turn, put a steam counter on Hanabi Blaster. So the idea is that every 2 turns you would be using this as a free attack for 5 damage. It doesn't cost anything, and the steam counters are put on it as a consequence of you actually playing cards. And then the second card that was spoiled is a new mechanologist item, Powder Keg. It's blue, cost 0. Whenever a mechanologist gun you control hits, you may destroy Powder Keg and a defending equipment. So let's quickly break down the blaster first, because this one's definitely the more exciting one of the two. Up until now in the aggro versions of Dash, there's been a bit of a split between using Teklo Plasma Pistol in combination with High Octane, or using Talishar the Lost Prince and no High Octane as a way to sort of push the damage on your weapon. Both are really effective, but both have felt a little bit on the weaker side. Talishar is very easy to fatigue as you can only attack 3 times with it, and sometimes its damage isn't that efficient. Teklo Pistol can do really high amounts of damage with High Octane, but is usually pretty underwhelming by itself. Hanabi Blaster sort of solves this issue by now providing you with a really solid, consistent weapon that can not only attack as many times as you can present 3 boost cards, but also doesn't cost anything and is extremely resource efficient, and the fact that it's essentially free. So let's quickly break down a hand that can work with the Hanabi Blaster. So for example, off a blue pitch, we could go red throttle and a red zipper hit and a red 0 to 60. And assuming that we play a line like this twice in a row, so we find a way to play 3 boost cards on the previous turn, we get to put a steam counter on our blaster. And then on this turn, when we play the 3 boost cards, but on this turn, we're gonna choose to boost our 0 to 60 so that we're able to get go again, because after that, we can remove our 2 steam counters and shoot the blaster. This is a hand that does 20 damage right here. And if you include Tekla Pounder and if you include Goliath Gauntlet, for instance, if you're going to use it on the throttle, it actually does 24 damage. And here's another combo line. So this one is going to be using maximum velocity. So assuming we boost 3 times, put maximum velocity in arsenal, then on this turn we can play 3 cheap boost cost cards, play maximum velocity, break Achilles Accelerator, and then actually use our Hanabi Blaster in the same turn. So you can already see how this card is already fitting the shell of the really aggressive boost dash list extremely well. Feel free to check out my playlist, because there's a lot of videos that I covered where I talk about a lot of different hands and how to be aggressive with boost dash. And now you can just simply slot the Hanabi Blaster into a lot of those previous videos that I covered, and you can see just how strong this weapon is. However, it should be noted that because we want 3 boost cards every turn and the weapon doesn't have go again, we may actually start to shift the shell a little bit, so we include less of the non-go again chain closers like Overblast, Payload, and Maximum Velocity. We may start to lean more into abusing the blaster with cheaper, lower curve boost cards that can innately get go again. Although I could easily see a mix of both powerful chain closers and cheap boost cards being accessible in the blaster shell of the deck. And now we'll move on to the Powder Keg. So the Powder Keg, like we talked about, when your Hanabi Blaster hits, it's going to destroy an equipment along with itself. It should be noted that Teklo Plasma Pistol is a pistol and not a gun, and currently the only 2 guns that can satisfy the condition are the Hanabi Blaster and Plasma Barrel Shot. So unfortunately, you can't use it in a pistol version of Dash to destroy equipments like Rampart of the Ram's Head against Oldham, but this is still a really good Spark of Genius target as it does cost 0. So it's very easy in an aggressive shell to be boosting and then play Spark of Genius for 0, get a Powder Keg, and then also get to arsenal a brand new card. But we're going to talk about a really powerful interaction, and that's with T-Bone, because T-Bone says if you control a card in the combat chain that's boosted, the defending hero must defend T-Bone with an equipment they control if able. T-Bone itself has boost, so it counts itself. So T-Bone, when you boost it, your opponent has to put an equipment in front. However, Powder Keg says whenever a mechanologist gun you control hits, you destroy the Powder Keg and a defending equipment. It doesn't specify that the equipment has to be defending the Hanabi Blaster or any mechanologist gun you attack with. So if you attack with T-Bone and then you attack with the blaster in the same turn, and assuming the combat chain isn't broken, you can go back and actually destroy whatever equipment your opponent blocked the T-Bone with the Powder Keg. And that becomes really interesting because your opponent normally blocks T-Bones with non-blocking equipment pieces. That way they're able to preserve their blocking value on more important armor pieces while still meeting the criteria of what T-Bone's text box requires. So now your opponent has to make tougher decisions if you have Powder Keg on the table. And now we'll actually go into a really cool combo where before you could go 2 T-bones in a magnetic shockwave, and the way that would work is that your opponent has to put 2 equipments up front into the first 2 T-bones, and then you play magnetic shockwave, and because you boosted twice, your opponent has to put 2 more equipments in front. So what that meant was that T-bone magnetic shockwave was a really easy way to get 4 equipments from your opponent and make them block with all 4. But now, with Powder Keg and Hanabi Blaster, after we do this line, we can break Achilles, shoot the blaster, and now we get to choose any equipment to destroy on top of what we've already destroyed with Blade Break. The reason why that's really significant is we can take a look at a couple equipment suites of some top heroes. So let's look at Icelander's equipment suite, for example. So if we do that line, not only do we break Coronet Peak and Vandal Spring Tunic, which is Blade Break by forcing them to block with it, but we can also then destroy Stormstriders if it hits. We can also look at Runeblade equipments, where almost all of them that are impactful have Blade Breaks, such as Spellbound Creepers, Crown of Providence, and Spring Tunic, but now we can also destroy Grasp with the Arc Knight, assuming that the gun hits. Or let's look at 5, for instance, who's probably the most prone to this combo, where almost everything that he runs has Blade Break. So Flamescale Furnace has Temper, which is also really good. Tunic, Maz Kuko, all those are going to break when we do this combo, but then when the gun hits and we break Powder Keg, we can also destroy Snapdragon Scalers. And just off of that one hand, of course, this becomes much easier to do later in the game, but if you're able to do that on, let's say, turn 2 or turn 3, all of a sudden you just skyrocket your chances of victory. I'm sure there'll be much more mech support in this set. Once again, I'm really excited to be spoiling a card myself on October 31st, so make sure you're subscribed for that. And I'm really interested to see how we're actually going to get even more cards that supplement the style, because even right now these cards are fitting into existing shells. But I'm really excited to see the design direction that LSS is going to take with mech, going towards this more aggressive version of the hero. And it makes me really excited for Dynasty and possibly Metrics, wherever that is in the future. Thank you for watching.